walk us through a guy that's going to just be getting started out in the state of Texas, going to file for child custody, going to file for divorce, or have those things filed by their co-parent. What does that process look like, and what should a guy expect going through that?
Mm-hmm. Well, it really depends on what he wants, right? Because the pathway is going to be absolutely different depending on what he wants. If he is, just say if he's initiating a suit, or if a suit has been initiated against him just simply for financial support of the child, his approach to that is going to be completely different than if this suit has been initiated and the question of custody is at issue. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Financial support versus who this child lives with and who would ultimately be responsible for supporting the child are two completely different standpoints. So I'll defer back to you. So give me an example, like what are we talking about so I can advise? Give me a hypothetical. I have a client come into my office and he's wanting to do what? And I'll tell you.
Let's do the most common situation. We have, let's say, increasing unmarried father was together with his co-parent for 6-7 months. And she one day tells him, leave, you got to get out. I'm making the decisions with the child now. He probably waits at least a handful of weeks before he walks into your office. So he hasn't been able to see his child for, let's say, a month now, despite living with his co-parent and the child for the first 7 months. Mm-hmm. What's that process going to look like?
Mm-hmm. So that process is going to look like absolutely him making a journal, having the information, the supporting documentation or proof of the fact that they've been residing. And the reason why residing together, the reason why that's important is because when a suit is initiated concerning the child, the first suit is going to be called a suit affecting parent-child relationship. And in that suit, conservatorship is established. Again, that has to do with the rights and duties, who's going to be the custodial or the non-custodial parent. Child support is going to be established as well as medical support. The issue with regards to being able to document when he was in the household with the children is important, because when you're talking about initiating child support, they can go back 4 years plus. The code says they can go back 4 years with regards to establishing child support. And if you can show that there is a need to go beyond 4 years, then they can do that. So that means that at the very onset of that suit, someone can walk into a situation where they're already in arrears for up to 4 years for the amount of child support that they should have been paying.
Wow. Let's stop on that, because that's very different than the state of California. And I know we're going to dive into child support a little bit deeper later. I know everybody's favorite topic. But in the state of California, the code only allows for the state to go back from the date of filing. So, for example, if you break up and then you don't live together, you're separated for 2 years, and then you file, and let's say it takes 6 months to get things rolling in the court because there's so many people out here in California, they can only go back to that date of filing, that month of filing in terms of child support. So in the state, yeah, so it's one of those things like where I've seen where they think they're getting back together, the case gets dropped, and then it gets refiled like 3-4 months later. And those 9 months that passed since the first one was filed, the reconciliation, everything, the state won't go back and collect child support for those. They can't. There's some specific situations that are codified that have to be met for them to go back pre-filing.
Let me ask you a question. When you're saying the state, do you literally mean it's the state that's going after this child support, or is it the individual party?
The state. So in the state of California, it's Department of Child Support Services. So it is a state agency that all child support, separate from the family courts, that all child support runs through. So
if mom says she doesn't want it, it doesn't matter to her, are you saying to me that the state will on their own, sua sponte, go after this money?
They can. So we saw it a lot during COVID, because if the mother applies for any sort of state benefits, whether that be WIC, whether that be unemployment, whether that be housing assistance, anything, then as part of that, the individual who's acquiring those benefits essentially signs over the right for the state to go after the child support from the co-parent.
Isn't that crazy? And you know that stems from the federal government, right?
Yeah.
That starts from it's an act that was implemented many years ago through the federal government, and that has been passed down. They have all of these requirements from the states to acquiesce to these requirements, the federal requirements, so that they can receive different types of funding, right? There's federal funding that gets channeled down to the states for the establishment of child support. No, before the establishment of child support, establishment of paternity, establishment of child support, the collection of child support, and the collection of arrears. Isn't that crazy?
100%. So let's turn back to Texas. So it gives the co-parent, they can go back up to 4 years. And you see this in California. Even though it's only date of filing, in the state of California, it may take you 2 to 3 months to get that initial hearing where the temp orders are set. And then it may take another 2 to 3 months for DCSS, the Department of Child Support Services, to set child support. All of a sudden, let's just say there's DV allegations come out of the woodworks, whatever it may be. We see all kinds of stuff in those initial hearings that just get thrown out there. So dad gets 0% custody in that initial hearing. All of a sudden, child support gets set 6 months down the road, and let's say it's $2,000 a month in child support, it's already $12,000 in arrears, and he literally just found out he got child support. I can only imagine the hole it puts men in Texas if it's 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years is according to the code, but the code allows for the courts to be able to go even beyond 4 years, if they can show just a reasonable cause for that. They can go beyond 4 years. So it really is unfair. So you have situations where if mom waits a while before she actually goes to, apply for services or wants to file a suit to try to get some sort of financial support, then that father is on the hook for, depending on how much he makes, for thousands of dollars, and it compounds interest at 6% currently.
Yeah, that's insane. I want to go back to 2 points you made. One is, everybody probably thinks I'm crazy because I always preach that whenever you think this is starting to happen, one of the best things you can do is go out and buy yourself a $9 journal from Walmart and start documenting everything, whether it's a calendar, whether it's a journal, whether it's something. Documenting this stuff and creating a timeline in the moment can create one of the biggest advantages you have, because you've taken away the recall factor, and you can say, here's what I wrote on this day when it happened. I say this, if you're a dad who, the hypo I gave, in terms of you're unmarried, you are on the birth certificate, she tells you get out, or I'm gonna tell everybody you beat me, which unfortunately is a very common thing that comes across my office on a weekly basis. She told me I got to get out, or she's gonna call the police and tell them I hit her. Start keeping that journal right now. When did you try to see the child? When did you reach out? When did you do all those things? Because that's going to allow, number one, it's going to allow your attorney to easily put your case together. And number two, it's going to allow you to show the judge that you've been trying. You've been the parent who's been trying to make it work, trying to be friendly. And in the state of California, there's the friendly parent factor. The one who shows they're willing to co-parent, in theory, should be kind of a notch in on that person's side of the board. Now, debatable whether that actually occurs, but it's codified that way.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. No, we don't have anything like that in Texas. We don't have anything like that in Texas. But no, I agree 100% with you about journaling, what's going on. And I tell my clients the same thing. It's very important to document it all. And as I was saying before, you want to document, when you were there in the home, because in Texas, you'll be entitled to possession credits. So the time that you lived in the home with the child and you were caring for the child while you lived there, then you're entitled to those possession credits, to where if she tries to go back 4 years or however many years, then for at least that time frame, you should be entitled. You would be entitled to what is called possession credits. So yeah, document any payment you've ever made. Never give cash. Never give.
Who carries cash now? Why are we giving the mother or the father of your children? Why are you giving them cash? I didn't even know. I went to the store the other day and they're like, we aren't accepting cash. And I was like, do people carry cash around?
It's funny.
I was a different guy. And I'm like, do people pay for TVs in cash now? I didn't know that was a thing.
It's very funny. I actually had a conversation with someone at lunch today. Gentleman that was sitting next to me at the countertop just pulled out a wad of cash. I'm like, why do you carry all this cash around with you? If you ever get hit upside the head, you're done. You're robbed. You're completely gone.
Yeah, we got some cash. Yeah. So document that, because that also in California, they will go back and give you credits. Like you see a lot of times they've made an out-of-court agreement and you've been paying $500 a month. Make sure you have that documented, because if you don't, you could walk in there and child support usually goes in front of a commissioner in California, not an actual judge. And they're going to ask for proof. And if your co-parent says, no, they've never given me anything, and you were just giving them $100 bills on the first of every month, it's a 50-50 shot that they give you credit for that money that you've actually already paid.
So in California, if you can show proof of the payments, they'll give you credit for it?
Yeah. So like, let's say it takes that 6 months, but you've been paying $500 a month in support. I've seen it where there's not any proof and both parents just agree that's what's been occurring, and they'll give you that back credit.